Should you be single or should you be in a relationship? And if you're already in a relationship, should you stay in that and continue dating that woman? Or do you need to end things and actually be a single man, because it may be more advantageous on the other side of things, depending on where you're at in your own life. And I think a very common question I get asked is, Kyle, should I be with this woman? Like, guys actually come to me on coaching calls asking me if they should stay in their relationship or not because they're unsure. So I want to lay out a bunch of different details that you need to know these concepts so you can make an evaluation for yourself in your own life. All right, this is really to give you clarity, because it's not just an emotional decision. You're going to have urges in different directions as you're dating and as you're in a relationship. So I just want to give you guys clarity on all that stuff so you can make an educated decision for yourself. So very first thing, because I had a guy recently who was like, I've been dating this girl, I really like her, I don't know if I should stay with her or not. Because we've been together for 4 years, and even if we broke up, I would go down this journey and I would ultimately want a girl like this. So I'm confused as to what I should do. All right, and I think there's a lot of guys in similar or slightly different situations, but all of these concepts apply. So very first thing, and I'm not trying to be shallow with this first concept, but I do think it's worth noting, is that there is a minimum level of physical attractiveness that your partner should have. Minimum. And I would say on the low end, that's an 8.5 minimum. Reason being is that there's going to be so many women that you encounter in your day-to-day, and if you're not very physically attracted to your woman, again, she doesn't need to be a 9.5, but minimum there needs to be a high level of physical attractiveness, because also understand that the looks will continue to diminish over the years too, and what you'll be left with is the substance. But I do think to even get to that point, and ideally, you guys stay youthful as long as possible, right? So it's not like, again, I'm not trying to be shallow with this first point, but I do think that the physical attractiveness is important, and it doesn't need to be 10 out of 10, but it does need to be high. It does need to be very high. And so that's the first point. From there, the next thing is the personality. Is there a good chemistry between you guys? Can you naturally have a lot of fun together? If you can't enjoy the other person and actually just have fun beyond just the physical, like, we can't have intellectual conversations, we don't have alignment on goals, we don't have alignment on views in the world, in society, of what we envision for our lives, that's a massive problem. Now, some of these things, and there's subtleties to this I'm going to get to, but some of these things are small. And I also want to mention that a completely different misconception too is that you're going to find a perfect partner. That's simply not true. You're going to find a partner that has enough of these things in place, and then we're looking for the potential, the coachability, the potential alignment long term that we're ultimately going to have to work towards. Yes, work towards. You're not going to find a perfect fit to your puzzle. And I think online social media and all the content I see on YouTube has brainwashed us to be envisioning that there's this perfect fit, and if a girl ever isn't aligned with that, you need to have the willingness to end that thing and walk away, because otherwise you're just beta and you tolerate too much. It's like, no, there needs to be enough potential in place going into things. In my opinion, minimum level of physical attractiveness, minimum levels of personality, chemistry, being able to have fun, being able to have intellectual conversation that's at least somewhat stimulating, right? But aside from that, like, is there the potential for these other things to be in place? So I'm looking for the potential alignment long-term that this thing could go somewhere. Now, as I'm saying all of this, if you're thinking about women that you've been dating or you're seeing right now, and the answer to these things are a no or a hard no, that's a good indication that it's probably not the most suitable partner for you long term. And really what's going on is you're in a relationship where you're comfortable, and it's better than nothing. It's better than being alone. It's better than what your single life was before you met that woman. And so for you, it's an improvement, and you don't want to go back to being alone. So you're kind of in this thing complacent, but really she's either not physically attractive enough, or it's just not a good fit long term, or she doesn't have enough qualities that you could really appreciate or admire within your partner, right? that's a problem. Again, we're not looking for 10 out of 10 in all of these categories, but you know, as I'm saying this and you're watching this video, you know whether or not you're being real about it. Unless you're on the opposite side, which is you have that fucked up perspective of, I'm gonna find a perfect partner. And now you're in the relationship and you're getting triggered. And when you're triggered, you start to see all the negative sides of it. And that was a big problem I had in my last relationship before we broke up, right? We dated for 4 years before we broke up. And during that time, I was very avoidant and dismissive. If I ever got triggered around anything, and I had a very, very big ego in the relationship. So if I ever got disrespected even slightly or had to compromise anything slightly, I would explode and start to look for all of these reasons why the relationship was not worth pursuing, right? So I was on the exaggerated opposite end of this thing. I wasn't trying to find the reasons to stay in the relationship. I was trying to find all the reasons to leave. So as I'm saying this, guys, like, it is a dense topic and it's not one size fits all for this thing. And that's why I think there's a lot of BS out there online when coaches say these are the 3 non-negotiables in the relationship. It's like, hold on, like, every situation is different. And so, like, there's no one thing that's a guarantee when it comes to relationships, or there's no one toxic red flag that you must avoid at all costs. Like, that's all bullshit, man. You could be on either side of this thing, but start to think about the girls that you're seeing right now. Are they fitting these criterias, or are there like really concerning things going on? Now, as you're going down this path, the last thing I want to say about this is, are you actually putting in effort to make the relationship work? And this ties back to what I was saying earlier, which is there isn't going to be any one perfect relationship that's just the perfect fit to your puzzle from the moment you meet, and then it's just sunshine and rainbows till the very end. And then the moment you find that one flaw, it's like, oh, I can't deal with this. No. There's going to be a lot of things going on in the relationship that you guys are not in sync about, that you're going to need to have conflict. You're going to need to have conversations. You will be disrespected. I'm not saying you're going to get shit on the whole relationship and women are here to disrespect you. I'm saying there will be moments where you feel disrespect and you will be triggered, and you need to stay calm through those moments and sit down with your partner and conversate through those things. When there's no conversation about conflict, when there's no conversations about you getting disrespected, when there's no conversations about how she felt around the thing, it leads to an explosion or implosion later on. The relationship will explode later on because there's been low-key tension building up and neither of you guys conversated about it. Neither of you guys addressed it or created a healthy space for you guys to have a conversation about it. And then it ends up exploding. And this happened in my own relationship multiple times where we didn't talk about one thing. It just kept eating away at me. And then eventually I got more triggered. And then later on it exploded. So back to this last point, are you actually putting in effort to make the relationship the best it can be? Because back to what my client was saying was, he said, yeah, I feel like if I was single, my life would be a lot better and I could grow a lot more. And I asked him, I said, is that actually true? Like, are you actually going all out right now to make your relationship as good as it could be? Or are you barely putting in effort to make the relationship really good right now? And then if you were to be single, you would now be alone, so you would be more incentivized to go harder at your single life. And as a result of that, all that effort you put in towards your single life would make your life fulfilling. So, and when I asked him, he said, no, you're right. You're right. I am complacent in the relationship right now. And if I was single, I would be alone and I would be forced to go harder. And that's why life would get better. So it's not because of the relationship that your life would be better alone. It's the fact that you're not putting in the effort to make the relationship as good as it could be. Right? So if the physical attractiveness is there on some level, some minimum threshold, if the chemistry is there, if you guys have fun together, if you guys can have intellectual conversation and there's alignment long-term with goals and visions for the future, if those things are in place and a couple of the other things may not be, but you guys can work through them by having check-ins on a weekly basis, talking about and acknowledging the things that you guys appreciate that each other did for each other on a weekly basis, and also where you guys maybe went wrong throughout the week that you could fix for this upcoming week. Like, You need to have check-ins weekly about what was good and what was bad and how we can adjust. It's that, but it's also putting in the effort, like really putting in the same amount of effort that you would as a single man. And if you do that weekly, like you go on at least one date a week with your girl and actually date her and actually do fun shit, not dreading going on the date with her that week, like, oh, this fucking bitch, now I could have been working right now. And you start seeing all the negatives in the relationship, right? If that's what's going on, obviously you're destined to fail. And obviously the grass is always greener on the other side, because on the other side, you're single and putting in a lot of effort, but you're complacent not putting in effort right now. So those are some different concepts I want you guys to consider for your own relationship. If you're not in an actual relationship right now and you're dating, start looking out for these criterias with the women that you start going on dates with. If you are dating, do an evaluation. Have I actually put in a significant amount of effort on a weekly basis to make this relationship as good as it could be? And if the answer is no, you need to go explore that first before evaluating you leaving. Because I see so many dudes who haven't put in the time to make the relationship really, really good, like the same amount of effort that they would in a single man's life, and then they compare. That's not a fair comparison. You're looking at a single man going all out versus a complacent man in a relationship looking at the negatives, not putting in effort, and obviously you're going to lose in that comparison every single time. All right? Otherwise, you're just going to be single and going through this loop of dating subpar women, finding the negatives, waiting for the next shiny object to come around, start dating that girl, then you get complacent over time, then you get bored in that relationship, you start looking for the negatives, and you just keep going through this loop. And over time, you start to have this narrative about how all women are shit and how a relationship can never be like the end-all be-all. You're just not fit for a relationship. No, that's not what it is. You have an unrealistic expectation going in, and you don't really nurture the relationship and coach the relationship and lead the relationship, because it takes a lot of effort to make it work long-term, man. All right? That's all for this video, guys. If you want to work with me directly, links are down below. Check out the one-on-one coaching program, and we also got the school community, the group program going on. Click those links. That's all for today, guys. Peace out.